I actually found the best spot for lighting in this new house. Hey guys, I'm officially back to talk about the second book of the month that I'm posting on this YouTube channel, but our fourth book of the month on the Bookstagram account, which is Ryder by Jessica Peterson. Now, if you guys know, I choose one book a month for my Bookstagram account, Valentine's Book Club, and I post a bunch, I edit a bunch. We also focus on other books, similar tropes, fun edits, lots of personal edits, so it's a fun month all around. But this month we specifically honed in on the fifth and final installment in the Lucky River Ranch series by Jessica Peterson, which is Ryder. Now, I figure we just jump right in, get right into it, and I just start breaking down this book for you guys. First things first, I'll just make a note that Ryder is the name of my youngest brother. So initially when I first read the Lucky River Ranch series, if you don't know, the four other books in the series are about Ryder's four older, technically brothers. He does have a twin brother named Duke, but his other brothers' names are Sawyer, Cash, and Wyatt, and they are all the Rivers brothers, and they live on this ranch, which becomes Lucky River Ranch once it merges with Billy Wallace, our love interest's family's ranch. So this is the Rivers Ranch, and then she was the Lucky Ranch merged into the Lucky River Ranch, and that's where this series comes into play. So yeah, my youngest brother's name is Ryder, so I kind of initially was like, really? I gotta read about a hot cowboy named Ryder? Ooh, okay. But I was also like, you know what, I can remove that from my mind because Jessica Peterson really knows how to write a cowboy. If you didn't know this about me, cowboy romances are one of my top favorite romances of all time. I love romance books as they stand by themselves, but a cowboy romance for me is always gonna be probably top of the barrel. Now, first off, look at the edges of this book, how gorgeous they are. Like the guitar, the horses, the barrel, because she's a barrel racer. To brief you guys on what this book is about. Again, it's the last book about the brothers, so we know that it's gonna be a little bit bittersweet. We haven't really read about Ryder yet personally, so it's all about Ryder Rivers, who is an emotional cowboy. Just for context, a little spoiler alert here, if you haven't read the series before, Ryder's mom and dad both died. And so this book does deal with a lot of emotional trauma and emotional matter, dealing with the death or loss of a parent. And so it's focused on his story with his best friend's younger sister. That's right, his best friend Colt's younger sissy. Her name is Billy Wallace, and that's who our female main character is in this book. Now, I knew when I was getting into this that I would love Billy because of the way Jessica Peterson had been describing her and all the like blurbs and the posts about her on Instagram. She is fiery, she is wild, she's the youngest of our bunch, so of course she's the most protected, but also that always, we know, would make someone the most rebellious. And so her side of the story was also very emotional in the way that she was kind of built into this shoebox that she wanted to break out of, and she felt like she was being forced to be, and this is her position for her family, an accountant, and all she wanted to do was barrel race. So the story picks up at her finally going for it and going for a barrel race, and again, spoilers in this video, she ends up falling and completely injuring herself, which starts the course of her emotional journey and her figuring out her passion with what she wants to do, but also her relationship with Ryder. One of my favorite things about this book is that she always had a crush on Ryder growing up, which to me is the best, when the girls always loved the guy and he maybe hasn't always been interested in her, but maybe it's because he hasn't allowed himself to view her that way. So it's not that he wouldn't be, it's just that he hasn't been allowed to be. So I really loved that aspect of it, and she's so clearly obsessed with him, and it's so cute. The first, I think 30 pages in, I wrote literally already, wait, I'm gonna find it and read it to you guys. I literally wrote down on page 30 pages in, thank you, Miss Jessica Peterson. Because when I tell you 30 pages in already, we are getting such good content from these two, because once that injury happens, there may be a little mouth-to-mouth CPR, and it may be super devious and delicious. I really, really loved the setup for this. I love their relationship. I love how they jumped right into it. Now, I will tell you, if you haven't read a Lucky River Ranch book before, I would say this could technically be considered a standalone, although it's been a while since I read the last few books, even though I think she released Duke, the other twins book, actually a couple months ago, so I don't know why my brain was jumbled. I felt like I hadn't read the other books before until like I got into it. So I would say that it's definitely be considered a standalone, although I wouldn't read it as a standalone. I think that you guys should read the series, and maybe I'm being biased because, okay, you should read the Lucky River Ranch series, but unlike the last book review I did, which was a spin-off I think is totally different and can be read alone, and then it maybe will propel you to read the rest of the series, whereas this one, a lot of context is needed to kind of understand the family dynamics as well as the past and what we've read in the other books. So if you haven't read the other 4 books, please go read them. I promise it'll be worth your time. They're quick reads. This guy was about 400 pages, a little less, and the font's big, and I mean, the writing's great, so I promise. If you like a short, quick, easy, amazing book, this is seriously the one, and so are all the other brothers ones in the series. Now, jumping right into some of my favorite parts. The cool thing about my experience reading this book is that I was going through a very similar emotional journey as both of the characters, which I've usually not had or been able to relate to both characters so profoundly, except for when I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. That one I relate to Nora and Charlie completely. But in this one, I also really related to Ryder and Billy. Billy is definitely so open with her emotions, and a big part of her relationship with Ryder is that Ryder gets to learn how he can be vulnerable and open with his emotions. I definitely tend to be a bit more closed off and was going through something during this time that forced me to be open about my emotions, so Ryder was getting me through, and Billy is kind of in that place where she's unsure of what she wants to do with her life and how she wants to break the boundaries. And while I am very blessed to know exactly what I want to do in this life, it's also confusing not knowing your path, which I think we all deal with if we know or if we don't know what we want to do. So I really related to this and resonated, and Jessica just wrote it so beautifully, especially when Ryder finally got emotional. There was like a barrier that broke. I think about like a quarter of the way, maybe 2/4 of the way through the book, so about a half through the book, where he just became so emotional and so vulnerable. And there's one scene in particular with his whole family, which is so sweet, where he just expresses everything he's needed to express. And I mean, yeah, totally made me cry. I also really relate to Billy because I've always been the kind of girl who, if I have a crush on you, I'm gonna tell you. And let me tell you, I've done that quite a few times, and it's backfired in my face. Maybe a couple times it hasn't. And all I will say to you is it's just like the Taylor Swift song, Ruin the Friendship. 100% always ruin the friendship. And I will say that till the day I die. I would rather know than not know. And Miss Billy is that Mrs. No. Is that example for me, because she ruined that friendship. And I mean, you guys can tell it ended well. A lot of the tropes in this book are some of my favorites. Found family, which is probably my favorite trope ever, which really is more about the friendships than the love interests, but it also includes a mix of both. And for me, that's always going to be my #1 trope. I found that in The Deal, an off-campus series. I found that in the Addicted series, Calloway Sisters, and I found that that is something that in my personal life, I always love found family. I love meeting friends who become my family, and I love reading about it. So that is why I would recommend you read the whole series, because it's such a beautiful found family aspect. There's a slow burn in this, which I loved, because I always like a slow burn. I will say, this one did speed up quick. So if you're kind of like, you know, I am the type who like, I really like a slow burn. Like, I think the thing about Reese and Emmett, which was in her own league, was that it was like a really, really long slow burn, and there was so much yearning, so much tension, and they weren't really acknowledging the fact that they liked each other, which I love. In this one though, there was definitely an acknowledgement of the fact that Billy has a crush on Ryder, and he knew, everyone was talking about it. She wasn't closed off about those feelings. She was basically just waiting for him to make a move. So that was the difference between this book. I will say, for me, reading 2 back-to-back books where the characters are sneaking around the people that they love and like their friends and family is a lot. I love the sneaking around aspect and, you know, having to hide, but it kind of gets to a point for me, and this book was so well done and written in that way, but maybe that's just on me for reading 2 back-to-back books. But I'm never gonna say no to sneaking around because the payoff in this book is so good. But yeah, about, I would say like 2.5/4 of the way, they were like already together. there's 400 pages, about 220 pages, and they're already together. So it does happen a bit quicker on. One thing I absolutely adored about this book was the chapter titles. I knew right away, I mean, it's Jessica Peterson, but I knew right away when I was reading these that I was gonna be obsessed with it. Billy is obsessed with Taylor Swift. I'm obsessed with Taylor Swift. And so the first one for the prologue was Love Story. And so for me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. And they just keep getting better. I mean, let me just read you a couple of my favorites. The Opposite of Safe Sex, Pushing Buttons Pays Off, Come Again, Rent Free, Tit for Tat. And I was having a lot of fun with my annotations. I was like writing tit for tat word. I was having a lot of fun. So Jessica Peterson, I love your chapter titles. I love when a book is dual POV. I just read Recent Emmets, which is dual point of view, and this one is dual point of view, which I'm so grateful for, because dual point of view for me, it's just like, I do want to know what the man is thinking. And a lot of the times it's from the woman's point of view, which I'm a woman, so of course I'm like, totally. But also I'm like, well, I want to know what this man's thinking about you. And that's like my number one interest. So love a dual point of view. I also really loved that aspect of Billy wanting more and feeling like she doesn't get to be as wild and as, I don't know if carefree is the word, but as reckless as the boys. She has all boy siblings. She was raised around these 5 other boy siblings. I mean, it just feels like she's being raised in this world of boys, but she's not allowed to do the same things they are. Part of why she's drawn to barrel racing is because she wants that like recklessness. She wants to do something she loves. She wants to be outside. She wants to be with horses, but her family's like, no, like you have to stay safe. And so I did love that element, because I feel like a lot of the time women are made to feel tampered down and made to feel like they can't do the hard things or the things that men do. So I love this, and she really proved that a woman can do everything that a man can. One thing about this book was obviously she is his best friend's younger sis, so there was that aspect of having to reveal it to him, which I found was really sad and like intense, and he kind of just like, spoiler alert, shut down. And I feel like that's often what happens, but I always get into this. I never like that aspect in romance books, the revealing it and the siblings mad, but it's part of like every romance book where it's a best friend's younger brother or sister, usually it's younger sister, but any of those aspects, everyone always gets mad, and I'm always like, is it that serious? But then I think about my real life and I'm like, yeah, it would be that serious. So I thought that this one had like an incredible payoff at the end, because the brother, which, Jessica, can we get a cold book, please? Who the frick? So excited for Colt's book. Me. Because the last chapter, we get a little reveal about why the brother was maybe in such a mood, and oh, please read this book. And if you don't read this book, please read the next series by her, coming out very soon actually. The first book is called Colt, and it's about Billy's older brother, and let me tell you. Now I'm gonna find a couple little quotes for you guys to read. You know what that shirt does to a man, and that's why you wore it. You already know that's a bar scene. Dad always says that action is the best of medicine. I love that quote. And I mean, her dad's just awesome. Because no matter how hard it got, you never quit. Never stop believing that you were doing the right thing. It's pure fucking magic, Billy. I love Molly, of course. If you read the book, she's the first one that was our first female main character in the Jessica Peterson Lucky River Ranch series. And this is just her talking about like dreams and finding your dream and how the road to success is not linear, and honestly, tears. I loved that aspect of the book. I loved the girlhood, the friendships, the sisterhood, and the brotherhood. I loved it all. The life I've dreamed of but never thought would happen is, well, happening right now. See, all the quotes, I mean, trust me, there's some really intense, spicy quotes in here, and like, while I could totally read them and like want to, I feel like a lot of the quotes are highlighted because of what I was going through at the same time. Still am. We're always going through. It's always a process. We're just like all related to like dreams and life and the process of life, and I just really, really loved it. This is about Ryder and Billy. Someone who'd never try to tame your wild, who loved you for who you are. Her brother is talking to her and speaking about Ryder, and he says, because I love you like that. And he just is saying that that's what he wants for his sister, and then he says, I know Ryder's that for you. And then we come to the end, the last chapter, the last chapter title being Paper Rings. And then again, big spoiler, but if you're asking me to marry you, my answer is yes. And then Ryder goes in his pocket. I feel the paper ring I made. Usually I'd say assuming makes an ass out of you and me. And then she says, but you know me so well that rule no longer applies. Yes, Ryder, I'll marry you with the paper ring. And he goes, oh phew, you got it. Anyways, these babies are seriously perfect, and I loved this book so much, and what a great way to close out the Lucky River Ranch series. I'm definitely sad it's done, because a cowboy romance for me is always going to be where it's at, but I'm also really excited for Colt and to read the next series by Jessica. And I'm also really excited to revisit this, because that's exactly what I will be doing, because hey, when a book is that good, you just gotta come back. If you guys haven't already read Ryder, go check it out. If you haven't read the Lucky River Ranch series, I highly recommend checking out the other books first. And if you just want to pick one up, pick up Ryder, because I promise it's good, it's spicy, it's steamy. I would give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It was just so homey, so lovely. I related to it, I resonated with it, with what I was going through in my life. And I really just think it's such a sweet book and such a great way to close out the Lucky River Ranch series. Thank you to Jessica Peterson for writing such a brilliant series and such brilliant novels. I'm really excited for her next one. And if you guys want, check out my Goodreads, linked right here and in my bio. And that's where I wrote a more in-depth review. And I'll see you guys in my vlog next week, probably actually this week, but I'll also see you guys in my next book review in 1 month, because we are also going to be hanging out with a cowboy on a different ranch. Bye guys.